Welcome back. Well, we can now say with pretty much certainty that Ahnonay is fake. Kadish was not actually traveling through time. He just built Ahnonay to create the illusion that he was traveling through time. So if he wasn't actually traveling through time, then how was he doing it? Well, since we know that that linking books as well as shell cloths always link to the same location in an age, the only conclusion we can come to is that somehow these three different versions of Ahnonay are physically moved whenever we trigger the time travel process. We saw in Water Ahnonay that it was enclosed in some kind of dome, so apparently that dome is moved around. And that's also the sound we heard then when we used the lever in Water Ahnonay. That sound was it sounded like something very big was moving, a mechanical process. That may just have been moving the actual versions of the age around. The device in the center of the lake, the tower with the blue lights on it, it's probably some kind of sensor that checks whether or not there's anybody on the island. Because obviously, if you were to do this while there was somebody still on the island, then you would be able to link the two different time periods. You would be able to link to a different time period while there were still people in the first one, which would break the illusion. So the device in the center is probably just to make sure that the time travel is only possible when there's no one in the age. I assume that originally this one actually worked as well for Space Ahnonay, but right now it's broken. But thanks to that lever in Water Ahnonay, we have the opportunity of doing something that Kadish would not have wanted anyone to do. Because we can trigger the time travel process while we're still in the age. I better hope that this door is still open, yes. There's some kind of glitch or something in the game. Sometimes you end up with this door being closed again, in which case you have to go through the entire process of linking to Misty using the shell cloth, and then linking to space using the other shell cloth, and linking back into the tower. Fortunately, that wasn't the case. So let's use this lever again. Yeah, well, it definitely sounds like something is being moved. Also closes the door. So, if our movement hypothesis is correct, then now Misty Ahnonay has been moved into the active position, and we are somewhere else. So, where are we if that is correct? That's the question. Well, since there was nothing obviously useful to do in control centers 1, 2, and 3 via the regular way, maybe this lever can help us. After all, I doubt they put it there just so you could get to that clue in Misty Ahnonay's tower. In fact, it wouldn't even be needed for that. You could just use the pedestal to get to the clue inside Misty Ahnonay's tower. So we haven't really needed that lever for something, and this being an adventure game, it must be useful for something. And again, this is something that would take you a lot of trial and error to figure out. If you were doing it for real. I know it took me a long time to figure all this stuff out. So right now, Misty Ahnonay is in the active position, if our movement theory is correct. That means that Water Ahnonay is somewhere else, maybe in the position of the third age, if they're in some kind of cycle or something. Well, let's test that hypothesis, and we can do that by touching this shell cloth. Now we're going to use this lever. You can hear that now it does something. It seems to do something similar to the lever in the tower, at least it sounds similar. And you might be wondering, why didn't it work before? Well, the difference is that this time we used the lever in the tower. So that lever apparently activated this lever. Well, it took me ages, pun intended, before I figured out what this lever actually does. And it's just so much trouble to try and figure out. What it actually does is it moves the version of Ahnonay you're in into the active position. So before, Misty was active because we pulled the lever inside the tower. Now that we've pulled this lever, water is once again in the active position. That's why it didn't work before, because water already was in the active position. Every time we were in the control center, that particular version of Ahnonay was active. Was the currently selected version of however you want to describe it. So that's why the lever never did anything. But now water was not in the active position, so this lever moved it back. Which means that the shell cloth we just touched in the room over there is now linking to a place where the water Ahnonay was before we pulled that lever, in the non-active spot. This is the first time we've ever linked to something that's not in the active location. Well, if they are cyclical, you would expect this to link to Control Center 3. But since there's not, it's pretty much the only thing we haven't tried yet. Let's see what it does anyway. Well, we're in another control center, but it doesn't look like Control Center 3, it looks slightly different. We check the number on the wall, this is Control Center 4. Control Center 4? There are 4 control centers? Oh, there's a clue there. 230. Let's make note of that. So, How can there be a fourth control center if there are only 3 versions of Ahnonay? Very bizarre. Looks pretty much the same as all of the others. Another door here. Can get out through this side. It doesn't look like there's much else to do here. But this is the this is an unknown version of Ahnonay, and as I explained earlier, this lever would move it into the active position, so that might lead us to somewhere interesting, but I will do it in the next video.